And I am the other co-conference director. I handle a lot of the logistical things behind the scenes, including making sure all the rooms have the right setups and keep things running smoothly during the event itself.
And more, and much more than that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm Suze. I'm co-owner of Author Nation, and I work with our sponsors and exhibitors to make sure they ensure that they have an amazing result because without them, we don't have a show. So welcome everybody.
And I'm Joe Solari, managing director of Author Nation and Reader Nation, and we're here to announce our speakers. We've been going through a lot of hours on this. Jen and her team have been tearing this up for a while. Uh, so we're gonna just kind of get into this and start talking about kind of the big picture concepts and what's different this year. There's the team's kind of getting sick of all the change, but like it's all purposeful for us trying to build the very best networking and education opportunity for authors.
Awesome. Well, I will go ahead and move on to our next slide. So this is just a little bit about our process this year. So we had over 500 submissions, which was fantastic. And this year we decided to do something new, which is opening it up to the community, telling us what they want to see at the show, and that informing kind of our lineup. So we had over 58,000 votes cast on sessions people want to see this year, which was fantastic. Great turnout by everyone. So thank you so much to everyone who took the time to go through sessions. That's really helpful for us, both in our lineup, but also, at the show itself, planning like, room sizes and like how we do that and making sure that you can get into the session that you want to see live. So thank you for that. The
Just
numbers
real quick on
oh
that,
yeah.
Jen, like you want to kind of touch on like how helpful that was for you in this whole process?
Yeah. Yeah, the voting was particularly helpful to kind of take the temperature of the audience to see what everybody who's going to be coming is excited about, to see what they feel like they want to learn. It also really helped when we had things that were about the same topic and we could see which ones really struck.
Mhm.
Um, and it's also going to help us when we're putting people into the right rooms so that we have the ones that were the most likely to be attended are going to go into the bigger rooms. So it was a really helpful exercise and one I think we want to continue because it really gave us some good data to make this the
Yeah.
best outcome.
Yeah, I think as far as like a first pass, it's really interesting because like now we have it, we understand how it works, and like in having our conversations, knowing that like, okay, we're going to want to do some things differently so that we can understand how within a topic things rank as well, right? Because for the folks out there that are listening to this, it's interesting to see how topics like advertising and marketing topics clumped around certain rank versus wellness or AI or translation. Like so where we had a little struggle was I would say in two things we'll think about how we're going to do is one is knowing how to categorize in those topics and maybe give people some way to see that next, for 27 so that it's a little easier to digest. And then clearly us not letting you know who the speakers were changed how things got voted on. And we're going to have to think through how that is going forward.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sorry to.
No. This is all good info. But yeah, all that to say, we will definitely be continuing this feature in some future years and maybe adjusting it slightly, but it was super helpful for us. So thank you so much. Yeah, and then going into just kind of the sessions we'll have 90 sessions, 4 deep dive workshops, which we'll talk a little bit about later, two keynotes, the opening one Tuesday evening, and then the closing one Friday evening. We will have 7 panels, and these will all fall across 9 topics, which we have called various terminology in previous years of whether we call it a track or a domain. Maybe we like topic more. Let us know in the comments if you have suggestions a preference, but basically those are our like categories of what sessions fall into. A lot of things fall into multiple things. So, I think we have the most in craft, and then marketing and advertising this year are the two biggest ones. But some things fall into multiple, and those will be marked in the session apps as well. So you can kind of filter by the topics that you're interested in. Yeah, and then we have over 900 ticket holders so far, which is super exciting. We will cap it off at 1,400 and see you all in Vegas, and then have our virtual after party in the first couple months of 2027, just like we did this year. So yeah, super excited about that. We can move on to the agenda for this call. So we're just going to talk a little bit about overarching theme for this year, and then go through existing lineup announcements of the keynote, and then like a quick recap of how our schedule looks this year, what our topics are, how the deep dive workshops are going to work. And then we will be fully going into our reveal for speakers and sessions, and we will leave off with Q&A. So I will turn it over to Joe to talk a little bit about this year's theme.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. So what we're really trying to do is pull all these pieces together. And we had a vision even before we took over the show about being a thought leader in the industry and trying to have everyone prepared for what's coming. That gets harder and harder the faster and faster change comes at us. But we do have some topic, like an overarching topic of this incomparable idea of, with the fact that markets are getting saturated and trust is being eroded, how can we help you to be differentiated in a way where you're just the obvious choice? And this is going to tie in, as you see as we go through this, on a lot of different levels, to how you market and how you craft your product. And at a really high level is how you deliver an experience, right? Like in the end, you're in the experience business. It may not feel like it when you're alone trying to pound out the words, but in the end, the experience that happens is somebody reading those words or listening to those words and having some type of experience in their own head. And the more that we can help you be found as the person that can give that experience, and that experience really resonates on an emotional level, we believe that that's going to get you the business that you want to have as an author. So you want to go next slide.
Flip forward so you can.
So one of the things we're going to do this year is we're going to kind of have these three kind of subtopics under this incomparable idea that we're going to be because we're this year, the work that Jen has done to get speakers selected earlier and how we're crafting how these speakers fit is we're going to be working with them to kind of embed into all the work we do these three ideas. And so, like I already talked about the incomparable concept and how that really resonates about your brand and your reading experience. But there's two other things that we're really going to be leaning heavily into in Author Nation. The next one is this idea of profit endures. My opinion is that there is a lot of revenue cosplay in the author community. There's so much talk about revenue and where things are ranking. And what I know is that profit is what's going to get you to the point where your business can be sustainable and survive through all the ups and downs and changes. So we're going to be really focusing in with our business and our finance and our marketing and having these core ideas on this profit endures. And as you build this into your business at its highest levels in the strategy and in its tactics, it's going to feed back on itself. And then the third piece is this idea of only audiences scale. And honestly, we've been part of this problem in the past, is a heavy focus on digital marketing and the idea of how you can use these amazing tools to be discovered and grow your business. But my feeling today is, and what we've been talking about, is that it's kind of devolved into um, just day trading an advertising account, right? You're just trying to see if I can get one or two ads to optimize and sell enough books to pay for themselves and a little bit more. And it's getting harder and harder because how these tools are changing. And what I know from the work we're doing on the Reader Nation side is that when you change your mindset to this idea of like what I'm going to scale as an audience, right? I'm going to get discovered. I'm going to nurture. I'm going to use these tools to scale an audience. Everything changes. All the ways you think about what you're going to do with your advertising, your marketing, and it feeds back on itself, right? Because now that's going to change how you bring your brand to the market and how you write your books. And in the middle there is the part that sucks. This all takes time, right? We have to deal with the function of, cumulative advantage takes time. It has to accumulate. It's just like, how interest builds in a savings account. And if we don't give it time, you never get to that point of things where they really pop off and go. So when we go to the next slide. So now we're going to kind of talk into like our keynotes. We have two keynotes. Of course, everyone has heard about Andy Weir coming. We announced that last year. Pretty terrific opportunity this year, given everything that's been going on with Project Hail Mary, and especially given Andy's start as a serialized fiction writer on his website. The other thing, I'm not sure if many folks know, but I'll reveal it now. It's going to be something we're really going to be pushing in the next month or so. Is one of the other things Andy agreed to do with us is he provided a short story that's going to be in our graphic novel anthology. So when we launched that graphic novel anthology on Kickstarter, is it in June, Isabella?
Mhm.
Yeah, in June. The story that he provided will be adapted by Robert Napton, who's the editor in chief on that. I can't remember the artist we picked for that, but it's pretty cool. So that's going to be something that, not only is he going to be speaking and talking about all this cool stuff that's happened in his life, he's going to be signing at the event, and we're going to have the whole thing going on with some people that are going to be having him sign this graphic novel that we've developed with that's, collaborating with other Author Nation authors. Phil Hansen is somebody that I've seen speak before. He does an amazing presentation that's very interactive. I won't give away too much. He's going to be our opening speaker on Tuesday night, and it's about limiting beliefs versus limitations. And I think it's something that's really going to be something that resonates with our community and stuff that I know a lot of us are dealing with, whether it's physical or psychological or financial limitations versus limiting beliefs. What do we got? Suze, you
Quick
want
sponsor break.
to talk
What?
about all our amazing sponsors?
Oh, absolutely. You guys, I'm so encouraged and grateful for this outpouring of support that we have from all of these amazing leaders in this industry, all of whom are, as Joe mentioned, thought leaders, who, we have come to really rely on to support us and as authors. So many of these companies are also authors, and so have seen a need and created a product to fill it. So I just encourage you guys to comment and connect with all of these guys, some of whom will be participating in our summer webinar series. Again, we'll do this year, and with a contest. So we're excited to get that kind of plan in the planning. I mean, it's already May, you guys. What? So those will be happening soon. So keep an eye out. But yeah, just couldn't be more excited for our two headliners, Pro Writing Aid and Book Funnel, who really are stepping up to, again, support all of us and make sure that we have a conference to have, right? As I mentioned before, because without all of these guys, resources and support, we couldn't put these things on. So a big shout out to all of them. You can see so far just a selection of them. We have two premier booths left. That means we're almost sold out already of the booths, which are, if anyone's new, these resources and companies will stay up all week during the expo, of course, the industry expo on Tuesday, and then throughout the rest of the week. So we have tables for our industry expo day. It's an all-day event. We have plenty of those tables left still, so we're getting those in all the time. And then we also have some end cap spaces available with some good spots too, and that's two tables, and that comes with some extra perks. So yeah, just reach out to me if you have questions about our sponsors and our exhibitors. Thanks for letting me talk.
Awesome.
All right. So before I dive into this slide, let me just kind of talk about those of you that did put in submissions to speak and kind of where things are at. Some of you have already gotten contracts, and those of you who've signed stuff, you will be announcing those names. Where there's some contracts that are still out there because people traveling and whatnot. There's a pretty significant amount of you that got the letter saying, "Hey, we're not doing your session." And then you may be the ones that are like, "What about these other sessions?" And we're still in the midst of sorting through things that we're going to be figuring out where they slot into this structure we're going to talk about. So you'll see we're about, let's say 70-80% of our live sessions selected, but we're doing some interesting stuff this year that's different, that we do see some of the things that were offered may fit in different ways. So let me walk you through the slide and what we're doing, because there's some pretty crazy stuff that we're building that I believe is going to fundamentally change how authors build their businesses and learn about how to run a publishing business. First off, Jen is building out what we call our 101 structure. So this is a bunch of sessions that are available as recordings in our community. They're 100% free. You don't have to be coming to the show, but these are ideas, things that we believe that you just need to know, right? And a lot of these things are prerequisites to moving up the, and leveling up your business. So, we've all been in events and found people not necessarily in the right room because of their learning level, but no one's ever said, well, how do we solve that problem? And this slide is about how do we solve it? How do we address this whole idea of making a week in Las Vegas really valuable to you? So part of this is we want people who aren't necessarily in a position to afford coming to the show to have resources to get their businesses leveled up so that their business pays to get them to the show. We also understand that there's some 101 stuff that maybe in the past was at the show, but frankly, because our speakers level is leveling up so much, and we have a limited amount of space, even at whatever it is, 100 sessions, we can't be setting a room aside to go over that. It's like you should really address that stuff ahead of time. The next piece is the idea of us doing prerequisites. So if we're going to meet in a room for an hour to talk about a subject, is everybody at the same level? And sometimes there's the need for some specialized training. So there's been some sessions that have been selected that will be available to ticket holders. And we'll say to you, hey, if you're planning on going to this live session on Wednesday, you should watch this virtual prerequisite so that you come ready to go the day of. That being said, there may also be like, hey, be sure you also know this 101 stuff, right? we may be pulling from both of these pools to make sure that you have the right information in that room. And this is going to kind of, again, be one of these awesome feedback loops where that helps our presenters think through about what they're going to deliver in that room that day and have things ready so that, this sounds a little mean, but like they're not having to say, for the first 15 minutes, really basic stuff, right? We're giving all of our speakers the permission to, their first slide being like, hey, if you haven't done this stuff, you can always go out and go to another session, but it's not going to, this is going to be hard for you to keep up if you haven't done this preliminary work. So we'll have that. And then, the other big thing we're testing out this year is this idea of a 3-hour deep dive into subject matter. And again, this is stuff we've got a plan about, and we're going to be working through with our speakers, is this idea of how can we help them embed some of those ideas that I talked about earlier about being incomparable, profit endures, scaling an audience, not ads. How do we get that stuff really embedded in those presentations so that the things you're learning in the hour-long sessions are going to be ingredients and things that you're going to pull into that master class, where we're really going to be focusing in on, like, how do we build something really enduring that drives your business for the next 18 to 24 months, regardless of what crazy changes come your way, right? And that stuff, we know it works because that's what we're doing with Author Nation. Like, we have really core guiding principles that when we see all the cool stuff that's going on and new technology and changes and disruptions, it really helps you to say, you know what, based on what's important to my business, that particular thing, I don't have to worry about. Not something I need to do. None of my business, not my drama, right? Other stuff where it's like, oh, wow, that change, now that this new thing has happened, that changes how I should amplify this particular thing that I've decided as being core to my business. So hopefully, and I can see that, the comments, people are really kind of digging this. Again, as we do any of these things, part of this is helping us by giving us feedback, right? Is like, how do we make it better? How do we, as we do these things, make 27, 28, 29 even better than this? Like, this is our first step in getting this, process humming along. All right. So this is how we've got the schedule laid out for folks that are looking at, like, how this really changes, that you've been coming to the show for years. You're used to kind of either showing up Sunday night or Monday and leaving on Saturday. Very, very different this year. First off, Tuesday is the starting day. Not only is it where we have our expo day, which is again going to be, building on the last 2 years. We had really, really good positive feedback about the expo and how having that time with our vendors was, valuable to authors. And again, Suze has been doing a great job bringing in new people, bringing back our old favorites, all that stuff on that day. We'll have our cocktail party. And then we're going to be moving into our opening session. So what we typically do on Wednesday morning, we're going to do Tuesday evening. So that will be the Phil Hansen session. That'll be opening remarks. So we kind of get that group kind of kickoff thing and level setting the day at the end of that day, so that we have all of Wednesday and all of Thursday to have our sessions. Jen, you want to
Oh, right.
what do you want to give Jem? Do you want to have any comments about like what we're doing here?
Um, no, I think that you covered a lot of it. I have some more thoughts on kind of how we are being picky about the sessions and what we're going to be doing, but I think I can work that in when we're starting to announce the speakers. So I would say that we're going to have 2 days that are really heavy with such good learning, and you can see that here, that lead into those 3-hour workshops. So as we're planning, everybody should, think about how many days they're planning to attend, and it really is those days, all of them, the whole day. Got stuff going on the whole time.
Yeah, and then what we're doing with this Friday, all of you that are coming, there's going to be at least two included workshops. One will be a marketing kind of business focused one. The other one will be on audio, and we'll get to that. But that'll be in that morning on Friday. Then we'll have some author panels. We'll have our closing remarks, a break, and then we kind of transition into Reader Nation with the Andy Weir keynote, and Reader Nation really kind of moving into the event that we're dealing with. And just to put things in context, um, you know, Reader Nation this year, we have sold more VIP tickets than we sold last year in the entirety of the whole year of marketing. So this is one of these things where I hope we're seen as an example to authors. Is like we had really ambitious plans on what we were trying to do with Reader Nation, and in the first year, it didn't work out as I had planned, right? And then we reevaluated our strategies and got back to it, understanding the circumstances we were dealing with changing of venues and the next year and being limited in what we could do. But that plan, because we just worked the plan, resulted in, we are going to have an amazing reader event, and we are building this reader community connected to the author community that is going to be what supports us, right? Like that, it's those readers and listeners that are the ones you're looking for, and the ones that you want to connect with, and the ones that you want to, have your audience scale around. And in us being able to do that in this live way, it does two things for us. One, it makes it easier for you. You can, like, if you get a table, you show up, you can get readers. But the other part of it is this is our test kitchen. This is where we're working to figure this stuff out. And I can tell you things about this audience now that I didn't know 2 years ago, and how much younger it is than the kind of audience you would find on Amazon, and what their propensity is to pay for things, right? So all that stuff, hopefully, you learn from as we go along. I see somebody asked about this year. We're 100% in Horseshoe. It's all at Horseshoe this year. So, and then 27, we're 100% in Paris, and that's where all our contracts will be going forward.
For Author Nation as well.
For Author Nation and Reader Nation, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. This is still me, right? So we're now going to kind of go into the specific topics and dive into what we're trying to do with each one of these. And Jen's going to really take the lead from this point forward on talking about these things. But you'll see some familiar names. You'll also see some new folks. But again, when we were thinking through all of this, we understand what really resonates with Author Nation around we're very business minded, focusing on advertising and marketing, craft, production. What's so cool is now with our with the voting system to augment what we already had with our surveying, I think we're really able to kind of straddle what the community is looking for, while at the same time seeing what's going on and what we need to prepare everybody for, right? And sometimes it's deciding what isn't best to be a topic. So with that, I'll let's go to the next slide. Workshops. So as I mentioned, we're going to have two free or included workshops in the ticket. One is going to be marketing. The other one's going to be around audio. You don't necessarily have to come to these. I mean, after 2 days of sessions, you may just want to recharge. We're again, with this whole thing, we're trying to figure out how to get the most out of the time we're together in Las Vegas. And I think for, some people, 3 hours of just sitting on those white couches talking about what you learned may be the most valuable thing you do all week. You don't need another session. But we are trying to address something that we've had come back to us year after year, and that is, I want to go deeper onto a subject. So we're gonna give that a shot this year. And then before we get into sessions, the other thing we'll be doing is, again, we introduced this last year. And again, just some of these things just take time for people to understand what we're up to. So, we believe that there's foundational stuff that everybody needs to learn. And if you've been on my calls before, I kind of use these examples over and over. But like, if you decided that if you were a big KU author and you decided you want to go into direct sales, you may be very successful at marketing and selling books on Amazon, but you're in a lot of ways a beginner at direct sales. So what's the foundational stuff you need to know? What's developed is there'll be less of that at the show. That stuff is stuff you'll be able to tap into the community and digest ahead of time. So really what we're going to be focusing on at the event is this 200 and 300 level idea. And again, using that same idea is, once you know what you want to do, you have to implement it, right? Like, I've decided I want to sell direct. Am I going to set up something on PayHip? Am I going to build an app? Am I going to use Shopify? Am I going to use WooCommerce? Am I going to sell through PayPal? What is it that you're going to implement as your strategy and then execute on, right? What my belief is that where we start to get hung up is we don't have a good process, or I haven't seen many places that have a good process that gets you to the point where you say, okay, now that I've implemented, again, I'm going to keep using this direct sales thing, is I've got my Shopify store and I've been running it for 6 months now. So now I can sit in on an optimization session that's going to help me with how to optimize my abandoned cart strategy, right? You can't do that if you don't have, as a group, if you don't have the data to look at to see how bad is your situation and what needs to improve. So I think that's something that as a community, we're going to keep working on to get to where we understand these ideas of like, okay, these are the things, like, so I might just need to go off and implement and do this for a year and come back next year and figure out how I'm going to optimize one or two things, right? And then that's 400 level. And just honestly, I don't think a lot of us are even at this place. And we certainly don't have a good solution on this for everyone. And I'm not talking about a mastermind where we just share hacks or gimmicks that might get you in a couple extra sales. What I'm talking about is where, as a group, and this would be a very small group, we're thinking about where we want to take these tools to, right? And what's gets interesting about this, and this is where the vendors come in, is a lot of times this isn't just us as the authors that are successful doing X or Y. It's us working with our partners and figuring out where we're taking the industry because it doesn't exist there. And kind of early example of this is last year with Book Funnel and the virtual signing. Is there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes we were working on with them to make that a successful launch at our show and to roll out elsewhere. Those are the kind of things that we believe we can be thought leaders on and will be coming in future shows. But like, think about this again with how we're putting all these sessions together, and this should help you kind of understand when you see in the schedule it says that it's an optimization session, what that means. And oh, I better have my prerequisites, and I better know that I'm coming into the session with the last 90 days of data from my KU dashboard. All right. You ready, Jen?
All right,
Big
yeah.
announcements?
All right, well, I'm not going to read the slides to you because I think everyone here is fully capable of doing that themselves. But as a bigger picture of what we're trying to do here, I think Joe gave a really good overview. You'll see, I think Isabella can kind of scroll through as we're going, but we have a heavy focus on craft. We made a deliberate choice to prioritize craft this year, and that's because no amount of ad spend could fix a book or a product or whatever you were working on that doesn't do its job. You could get the click, you could get the sale, but it won't get the read through, you won't get the fans, you won't get the career that you're looking for. So craft is a foundation. And so we are laying that this year with a lot of really interesting speakers. Our craft is balanced between world building, plot or pacing, characters, and then just some mechanical things. So we're looking at, as you'll be able to see as we start going through these small word choices, all the way up to the arc for a whole series. And we're going to be looking at craft in a lot of different ways to help build that foundation. So these are some of them, Isabel, if you want to start through.
Yeah.
We have a couple of slides. You'll see some new names that we have not had at these conferences before, and you'll see some people that have done really well in the past, and we're excited about the topics that they're offering. So, I've been very picky about who we've selected because we only have a small number of actual live sessions. And so these are the people that we feel like are going to move us all forward in our careers and learning about all of these topics. So yeah, craft is what we need. The goal isn't necessarily more readers, it's the readers who stay. We're working on building out super fans. And so as we move on to the next track, the next biggest section that we have, and really kind of advertising and marketing and business and finance are linked. They're not exactly two sides of the same coin, but they are related and they don't work in isolation. So the tracks will cover everything from launching and building your audience to deepening the connection with the people that have read your work to turn them from fans or from readers to fans to super fans. We're kind of looking to span that whole growth, and growth and retention is really what we're looking at here. So as you're looking at these, you'll see some ad strategies. You'll see some strategies that don't use ads at all. Smarter series structure from the beginning to help, and how you structure your career. The systems that we need for keeping your business profitable and resilient, because of course things are going to change and we have to be ready for that. And again, some names that you might recognize and some new names. We're really looking to get a good depth and breadth of people that we can all ask questions of and learn from.
Yeah, and I would just say, if you notice, there's some things that you may notice. One, there's some new faces, people that haven't necessarily come to previous show or our show, because like people are noticing what we're up to, and they're looking for a community like ours. So you're like, oh my God, like Penny Reed's coming to our show. Yes, she is. But also you'll notice a theme or something that Jen and I have these are people that have been around a while, right? They've been through a few big systemic shocks to publishing. And I think that that is something that we really need to lean into, that this is only going to happen more and more. And there's some things that we can, right? Like we can learn from some battle hardened veterans to like, it's not the same, but like there's some common principles that get you through the ups and downs in the industry. And I know for a fact there's a lot of folks that make a lot of money, but they're still living paycheck to paycheck, right? Because they're just really, really big paychecks. But in the end, the businesses are fragile. And that's something that I think long term, is going to be a difference in our community, is how we communicate around things like profit endures. That's not just making a lot of money, but having some of it set aside, because there's always going to be something around the corner that you either need to be prepared for because it's going to decrease your revenue, or so that you can execute on with capital, because that opportunity only happens once in a lifetime. So those are things that I think get beyond this whole idea of just like publishing is like this money hustle thing. We're really thinking about what's relevant to this business, and that if this is what you're going to do the rest of your life, you better be like, I wish upon you. Sounds weird, but I wish upon you the ability to survive, go through and survive multiple ups and downs in your business, because that's life. So I'm sorry, Jen, I got on my little soapbox there. You want to?
No, I mean, yeah, that's what you'll see, that when we get, as we said, a lot of these topics overlap. And as we get into the mindset and wellness, which is kind of what you were talking about, but you'll see that we also have some of the business and finance that overlap a little bit, because we are talking about what happens when something goes wrong and how do you pivot.
Yeah. And you'll notice there's some like, we've got Paul talking about how to go from $0 to $1,000, right? You know, it's a struggle when you're running a show, right? Because like, what do you want to have? You want to have the big performers, right? There's this whole thing around, oh, the person that needs to be on stage should be doing X or Y, right? And that gets to that whole revenue cosplay thing that we're stepping away from. And there are people here that are being vulnerable and sharing like, hey, this is how I'm doing it, and it's not as easy as these other guys say it is. Or by the way, I had some real success, and then X or Y happened in my life, and this is how I dealt with it and kept my career. And by the way, feel my career is better for it, right? We've got professionals like Seth, that like somebody that's not necessarily an author, but works on author businesses. And there's something that happens, and I can speak from my own experience, is when you're not emotionally attached to the product and you're looking at an author business, hundreds of author businesses that are just businesses to you. And you can see like, oh, here's what's not working and here's what is working. Now, I can speak for Seth, is that the part that sucks is when you know exactly what needs to be fixed and people don't listen to you. But like that's what we're trying to do, is have that mix of professionalism. We've got a few other folks we're still working through contracts on that'll be adding to this, but you get a feel for how we're packaging things up.
Yeah, and we're going to be adding some in for our 101 and some for our prerequisites. So there's going to be a really good balance to give people what they need to be successful. This is another one. We actually saw a lot of people in the voting say that direct sales was important to them. And so we've kind of upped this number of sessions for this category. It's where we kind of connect the business and marketing tracks to how to get those. It connects to how to get the readers into superfans. And then also direct sales, that's a big thing. As we move on to IP, eventually we'll talk about that there as well, because that is where we're also seeing a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, and just to kind of add some color on this, the folks that are really successful on Amazon, my observation is there's some structural things that are happening in the marketplace that if you stick to the old ways of doing things, it's just going to almost be impossible to make them work. But in saying that, what I want you to understand is I'm not saying don't sell on Amazon. I'm not saying, oh, screw those guys. They're the evil empire. What I'm saying is you have to change to this thinking about I'm scaling an audience, right? I'm not day trading an account to see if I can get a book to sell in the next 15 minutes on somebody else's platform. I am going to use these amazing tools that are developing and use them in a new way that gets me the audience. And then I'm going to sell to that audience where they want to buy. And sometimes that's going to be on Kickstarter. Sometimes that's going to be in a table in Las Vegas. Sometimes that's going to be on Amazon. Sometimes it's going to be at Kobo. You're not necessarily worrying about what channel as much as knowing what to do when those people raise their hand about that channel. Sorry.
Nope. Okay, production and workflow, getting that IP we talked about from your brain and onto the page. And we generally have a lot of people interested in the way that things go, the process. Actually, one of the questions is people asking about tangible steps while we continue the focus. This is a whole topic that's around that. And for each of and I'm directly answering John's question in the question and answer here, but for all of these sessions, we're going to have objectives. So there are outcomes that you should be able to take with you from the session. But this is one of those places that if you're looking for something tangible, you will also be able to find it here. We do have more people. We're still putting more people up as we get everything finalized here. IP, here we are again. And we are taking it and doing what we can with what we have. This is going to be our audio deep dive. That was audio. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. we're like you saw the IP, also video and sprayed edges and all of those things are important. We see a lot of people that are really interested in that. For audio, this is going to be one of our Friday 3-hour sessions with Chris Boucher of Actors Everywhere. And we're still working on specifically what this will be, but if this is your year for audio, this is the place to go. We've got some really exciting things coming and we can't wait to talk a little bit more about that once we've got some of those details ironed out.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch on that a little bit, this is one of these things where kind of magic I think is happening. We don't it's still brewing, but like the idea has gone beyond just like, hey, if you want to learn about audio, come here. And hey, what about how do you develop a relationship with a live narrator? That's not what Chris and some of the other narrators are pulling together is going to be something beyond that. So we can't really get into the specifics because we're still figuring that out. But what I can say is from the call that we just had last week, like this is going to be probably on par with some of the stuff we've done, like with Kickstarter, where it's educational and implementation all together, right? Like if any of those the folks that are on the call that have been involved in our Kickstart together, you understand that we're teaching you how to do this stuff and we're actually doing it with you and we're tracking results so that we can go back and say, this is what success looks like and how do we step it up?
Right. And we're talking about the 3-hour at the conference, but we're also with this looking at putting together something that goes a little bit longer. And we're really looking to have it be a long-term learning, getting you into it, not just a 3-hour blurb, although
Yeah.
3 hours is pretty long for a blurb.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. AI and automation. These sessions focus on using AI and automation to streamline launches and marketing and build your custom tools, moving beyond using AI, just and using it as a helper to help you with everything. Some really
Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting about this and very unique is, what's funny is and specifically on this slide with Shell and Akello, both of them put in sessions that are not relevant now. So like they submitted in what, January, February,
yeah.
and by May, that technology has been replaced. But what we're doing is we're having a conversation with both of them around like, hey, when we're talking about these higher order things like profit endures, and when we have these sessions around marketing, how can we make it so that when people come to your sessions, you're helping them use tools that are, rolling out now that are amazing to do the things that they're not really that enthusiastic about or um, uh, experts in, right? So the idea being, if you could have Shell or Akello design an agent that had my brain on your author business, there's two things that come out of that, right? You get all my insights, all the kinds of things that I'm thinking about that matter for an author business, and it's getting done, right? And maybe that thing runs once a week to build a dashboard for you to help you see your business in a different way to make better decisions. Well, guess what? If you just did that once a week, that's 52 times more that you're looking at that information that way than you are now. And your business is going to do better. And you weren't going to do it because you wouldn't even know what to look at, right? And so, like, that's the cool thing I think is coming to every entrepreneur in every industry is the ability to take expertise you don't have and have it applied the right way at the right time through these tools. And by doing that, freeing up you to do the shit that you love to do and that you're good at doing, right? This whole idea of making a robot business misses the biggest point. Robot businesses aren't incomparable. Okay. Because anybody could build a robot business. Right. So hopefully you start to see how we're using things in a different way than anybody else in the industry.
All right. And mindset and wellness. Yeah, we just talked a little bit about that in the pivot. Here's one of them. We've had a couple others. I do see someone asking if you have not seen yourself on here. And we didn't put anybody on here that hasn't signed their contract, isn't ready to go. So there are some people that are still in contract or talking about it, and there are some that we are waiting on to see what the best fit is. And we appreciate your patience with this as we're still kind of getting everything put together. That's for John. Okay, so the genre panels are still we have a couple of them that we are still arranging, but we have these genre panels. These are going to be on Friday afternoon, and going to be really interesting for us to watch as authors. These are author focused.
Yeah. So I know like Cheryl's panel, she's got Mary Stone, Doug Pratt, and Nick Harvey. So like that's a killer panel, no pun intended. Sarah Rosette has got Lee Strauss, Thorn Coil, and she's got a couple others that are really good, but we're in the process of getting them signed up. Morgan is also got Abby Emmons on that panel. So I know some people were mentioning Abby. Abby's new to the community, but for anybody, Abby's pretty interesting. She's part of this younger author community we're trying to bring in. She's got over 500,000 people on subscribers on YouTube. She's got a big YouTube channel, and we're not having her talk. What's interesting is this is again where this committee was so brilliant, and that means Jen, is like working through this, like, hey, what we really need you to talk about is how do we help people build a business, build visibility and discovery in that marketing space, when they're not necessarily looking to become an influencer and be on YouTube. So she's got a lot of really good experience on that. It wasn't what she's doing on YouTube. Like, she talks about writing books, but you can see how that's gonna, fit really well and kind of compound with what we're doing. So, she's presenting. She's also going to be on that particular panel. Skylar's got a great panel lineup. Some of these folks are like in the midst of putting their panels together.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, and we're also going to have a romance panel, and
yes.
these are not there will be other panels, but these are the ones that we have a little bit more of a firm handle on right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll have a romance and fantasy as well. And these will all be Friday afternoon.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our preview into our speaker lineup. As Joe mentioned, I think that's about 80 to 90% of the lineup. So, as we're still working through the last remainder of sessions submitted, like Jen mentioned, trying to figure out where to slot things in terms of like what things are prerequisites that should be virtual, that kind of thing. We will let everyone know one way or another about all the sessions submitted. So we appreciate everyone's patience with that. But yeah, and then question from Lee, are the panels all at the same time, or will it be possible to attend more than one?
So all of these genre panels are going to be on Friday afternoon after the, excuse me, let me look at my calendar, after the lunch break. So we'll do the 3-hour deep dives, which will include the audio, the business, the other ones that we're working on, plus writing time. Maybe you want to sit in Suze's mix and mingle midway couches and hang out with people. After that, we'll do the panels. They're going to be recorded, and you will have a chance to watch other ones when they come up. If you don't get to attend, if you can't attend more than one unless you come up with a time machine. And if so, please let us know, because we could all use that.
Yeah.
All right, our second and final commercial break. Joe, you want to give a quick shout for this, and then we'll just kind of end with Q&A.
Yeah. So we're, we've did things a little different this year with tickets, and kind of, we've decided we're not going to sell more than 1,400 tickets. We're based on what I know about how the ticket sales go, where usually you sell double what you've sold to this point in the next, the 45 days before the show. So we're going to sell out. What we've done this year is, we've had our early bird ticket. We have our, our alumni ticket that we sell at the show, which is our lowest price that we do. Then we had our early bird. This ticket we were holding open just because we know some folks, it's like, hey, I really need to know who the speakers are before I pull the trigger. Now like, there's more people than you will be able to see in a week at the show. If that fits, then get your tickets now, because they're going to be going up to $600 in 2 weeks. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for that. Now we kind of have, the remaining few minutes. Any questions folks have, feel free to drop in the chat. And this could be directed towards any of us. We're also, available on email if you want to shoot us an email at hello@authorventuresllc.com, and we'll get back to you there as well.
I see Diane asking about a panel for people who write non-traditional books. And I don't know that we would actually have another panel. I don't know how you do a non-traditional books because we only have a certain number of sessions, and those are picky and intentionally curated because we want to give the best experience. We can talk about meetups. We are going to be scheduling meetups, and that kind of thing would be the best place to meet people if that's something that you want to do. And when we are ready to roll that out, there's a process that's going to be really exciting to do that, but it's not ready yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to piggyback on that, that's probably something, Diane, that makes sense for some type of meetup. And, for those of you that are maybe new to the community, haven't been in the past, when we do our meetups, so it's been kind of like a spreadsheet, go fill in some stuff, and hopefully you can get access to the spreadsheet and know. We're going to be rolling out some communication tools here, which will be very clear on what meetups there are. Also make it really easy for you in that same place to suggest meetups, right? Whether those are on site or off site. That's part of this whole process. You just let us know. And, if we need to assign you a room, we can. Again, understand we have space limitations, but that's something we do want to accommodate for people because we do have that space. And then I think that's the kind of thing that probably makes more sense in a meetup where you can really explore what it means to be a mashup author or non-traditional or whatever that is.
Question from Anne, will regular sessions still run 45 minutes on Wednesday and Thursday? I believe there's 60 minutes.
Yeah, everything's
Okay.
It's like last year, it's an hour.
Cool. When do we expect to have the full session schedule available?
That's a great question.
Jen?
So I will tell you, I just showed the team, I have a whole wall and it's a lot of juggling, and I have to think about what's going to be programmed against what, who are the audiences, what are the room size. And so the first step is going to be getting our people all signed and making sure that our contracts are like ready to go. And once we have that, then I can work on my sticky notes and get them all up. If you're asking because you're so excited and you want to get to the sessions, I mean, it's going to be a little while, but not like a lot of time. I don't know if you have any timeline in mind, Joe, for the actual session schedule.
Well, and now people get to see how we work. It's like we're gonna have a programming meeting right now. I think we got two things we're dealing with, right? One is you have to get kind of the wall of magic resolved to the point that you're comfortable. And then the other part of this is we have to go through the virtual stuff and really think through. And this addresses some of the people's questions about like, well, what if my session didn't get picked yet? We have this big bucket in our system of things that we're like, we'd love to do this session, but where does it fit? Like, it may not have rated well, right? Like here's the other thing to think of. Like there's some sessions that like we thought, oh, this would be really good. And then when we saw what the community said, it's like, eh. But does it make sense as a virtual session?
Right.
And then what we have to be realistic about is we've got the summer, we've got some sponsor stuff we're doing. There's some 101 stuff we have to roll out. So if it's going to be prerequisite for the show, and then there's prerequisite sessions that are virtual,
right?
And we need to give people time to watch that. So like once we kind of get a better feel for that, then we'll release that, right? Because people need to know, oh, I better start carving out some time in September, October to watch some of these sessions and think through. And by the way, we're going to have some pretty cool tools to help you curate your week at the event. Like this isn't just like, here's the schedule vomited at you, we're gonna be showing you some ways of how you can use automation to um, go and understand really what these sessions are about and what you're looking for. Like, okay, these are the 3 craft and the 6 marketing sessions I should hit.
Right. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that has to go into place before we can click in the schedule. I see you're mainly excited and trying to convince other people to come. I think that the speakers that we have announced thus far are exciting, and maybe the schedule, exactly the time that they're going to be speaking, is a little bit less important than that they are speaking in terms of drawing in other people. But we will absolutely leave time for you to have your schedule planned in advance. It's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, I would say this is like, if you're sharing with somebody and they're not already convinced by some of the people that we have talking, who quite frankly have never spoken at any show before, right? If that doesn't get them over the line, um, like, I don't know what would. But what I will promise you, and this is not a good promise, is like, I guarantee you're not going to be happy. There's going to be 2 equally awesome sessions cross scheduled, and you're going to want to jam a pen in my eye. But it's like, we can't help that. That's where we're at now. Like, I, you know, Suze and I went to the post-apoc panel, and like, on that post-apoc panel was A.G. Riddle, Franklin Horton, Kyla Stone, Tara,
Tara Ellis.
yeah, Tara Ellis, like a killer panel. And the room was almost empty because everybody was in TD Donnelly and I think Becca Symes.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's like,
And it was one of my favorite.
Mhm.
They were
yeah,
so hilarious and good.
Luckily, we're recording, right? And
Yeah,
so if you
yeah.
can't catch it live, you can catch it.
yeah. So it's like, that's somebody can figure out how to solve that problem. I'll give them a ticket for life. Like, that's,
Just saying, the
yeah.
time machine, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question. Do you know when the pre-conference 101 content will become available?
Well,
It's
there's some
outlined
already
right now.
available.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there is some already out. But what were you going to say, Jen? Sorry to.
I said that it's an outline right now, and another thing that is happening with that bucket of people who have not yet gotten a response about their session is that we're trying to decide if that's a good fit for a 101, because we need to get a good foundation for everybody. And but again, it's a lot of pieces. I'm using all these bricks to cobble together the wall. And it's not ready yet, but it will be. And also, some of these things are going to be multi-year. Like, we're going to build a good layer now, and then as we keep developing, we're going to be delivering more.
Awesome. And yes, this will all be, the 101 session material will be in community.authorination.live in the learning tab. So it'll be a course in there. The question about the Andy Weir signing. So we have sold out of the VIP early bird tickets, which were the only guaranteed spots to meet Weir. However, we do have some spots left that will be done via lottery drawing for both other Reader Nation attendees and Author Nation attendees. So if you're interested in that, we will be sending out kind of like I'm interested sign up form for that later on, and be doing a drawing closer to the actual event, just to make sure that the people who are putting their names in will actually be there. And then we'll let people know once we do that drawing if they've reserved one of those spots.
Also, the
Question.
second part of that is, any chance they'll have books for those who want to jump in as line. So he doesn't, when we talked to him about coming to the event, he's kind of thinking like his writing schedule. So he's like, well, I don't have anything I'm launching. Right.
Just a movie that just
Yeah,
came
just a
out.
major movie with super hot guy.
Ryan Gosling.
uh, but what we will talk to him about is a couple of things. If we can always put his books in the signing store, but we got to think that through because we can be a book distributor and sell the book. I, I I don't want to say that if you buy a book there, you would be guaranteed you get them to sign it. The other thing I would say is the thing that I would do if it was me and I got the lottery or I had the VIP thing, I would get a copy of the graphic novel anthology, the limited edition, and I would have him sign that because that thing won't be reproduced ever again. We're only doing it for this year and then it's gone. So if you want something that's going to have like amazing memorabilia value, it's going to be that.
And support your fellow indie authors who will be attending at the show as well, because we have all of our contributing other authors are Author Nation attendees. So yeah, I think.
Yeah, we have, and there'll be more around that. That's probably kind of our next big thing we're ramping up is all the Kickstarters, right? So we have the Mary Stone, and JD Barker are editing the mystery thriller suspense anthology. We have the romance anthology. We brought in what's her name that's editing it this year.
The romance anthology?
Yeah.
Oh, Brenda Chin.
Yeah. So Brenda Chin's is going to be editing it this year and probably going to be running that project from this point forward. And then we have the graphic novel anthology, which Robert Napton has been running as an editor. And uh, we've got, I think, 11 different authors that are having short stories adapted into graphic novels. And like some of these artists that he's gotten are legends. Like if you're into comics, you're going to be like, holy shit, you got who to draw that? And I got to say is this project has been, while it's challenging to try and pull this off in a year, it is really kind of amazing to watch this collaboration and this creativity happen. So, and to see a consummate professional like Robert who is managing, he's like juggling herds of cats, right? It's crazy, the complexity.
It's a good way to say it. He's awesome. We
Yes,
love you, Rob.
his email game is off the charts. I don't know how he keeps track of it all.
Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
No, like he's managing 11 different stories with at least an author and an artist. Sometimes there's also a colorist. And he's managing it all via email. And very thoughtful, like insightful guidance.
So speaking of email, I'm going to drop mine in the chat because I think we're nearing the end of time, but I want to make sure if people have any questions, just reach out to us via email and we will get it answered. And we'll have this replay up as well later today or early tomorrow at the latest. So yeah, if you want to share around with friends who you've been trying to convince to come, or you want to pull the trigger yourself, feel free to do that. Jump in our community group if you haven't already. Yeah, this has been fantastic. Thank you all for attending on your weekends and all your great questions. Last notes from Joe or Jen or Suze or Jamie or anything?
Yay.
I would just, the one thing I would jump in, if you are like, hey, I'm not, one of the things we still are doing, like we don't have the payment plan anymore. That's done. But if you buy the ticket and you spend the $20 for the insurance, if you cancel the show before you come, right? Like up to the day of, we'll give you your money back. Right. And we had that last year. We had a lot of redemptions because of the government shutdown, people that just couldn't afford to travel, and like we give you the money back. So like we're trying to make it as limit your risk as much as we possibly can for, what's going to be going on in November. So, but like, we can't change the fact that ticket sales are going really well, and you may not have a ticket if you wait until October.
And
FOMO.
same with the hotel stuff, which we don't really have much control over. However, if you have not booked your hotel already, I would book that because you can cancel your deposit up to, I think it's 72 hours for a full refund. So I'll drop that link in the chat as well. Make sure to use our block to get your discounted rate because it's definitely one of the best prices you will get in Vegas. So
Yeah, good point. And with last year, and this is without Andy Weir, what started to happen is that the Friday night in the block sold out. And then the hotel doesn't have to guarantee anybody that rate anymore. And, understand we open up that block to the readers too. So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, I guess we can kind of wrap things up and let people get back to their Sunday activities.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you all,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Yeah.
See
See you all
Bye-bye.
online.
See you online.
Bye.